Without any exaggeration, I can describe what happened today between Donald Trump and Ukraine President Zelensky as the worst televised moment in U.S. history for a president and his vice president. If you haven't seen the news yet, please watch our other video on that. But for my part in this video, I have Trump and Zelensky's individual reactions to the shameful White House confrontation. But first, let's take a quick look at some reactions that I've curated for you from Washington, D.C. to Kyiv, beginning with Caitlin Collins' eyewitness account.
This seems to be a dream come true for Vladimir Putin.
Well, it's not an overstatement for sure to say that it is one of the most astonishing moments that we have ever seen happen inside the Oval Office, between these world leaders essentially shouting at one another by the end of this, devolving into, at points, Trump and Vance berating Zelensky for saying that he was not being grateful enough for the aid that the United States has provided to Ukraine, and Zelensky arguing back that they do not understand Putin, essentially, that he will violate any agreement if the proper guarantees aren't in place. That seemed to particularly incense Trump, as he was saying, don't tell us what we're going to feel. Zelensky has been arguing that Putin will not stop with Ukraine, that he will go on to other Eastern European nations, including Poland, as he made the argument there. And Trump was essentially pushing back on that and telling Zelensky, you either make a deal or we are out. Now, that comes after 40 minutes before this exchange happened, where the president was talking about how he wasn't ready to make security guarantees yet. He said the United States would still send some weaponry to Ukraine. Questions going back and forth about how a deal would hold, how a minerals deal would be carried out. All of that was essentially wiped away by those last 10 minutes. But just to give you a sense of how much things broke down, look at this picture of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States. She had her head in her hands.
Saying what a complete and utter mess. And this is a gift to Putin. And make no mistake, and I hope the American people get this, that this makes us look weak. And it's not normal behavior. The United States, Chris, we are a superpower. Our powers, our military, our economy, our diplomatic corps, our professionalism. This was not professional. We don't gain anything by acting like bullies. And this is what bullies do. And just because you act this way, by the way, it doesn't mean that you're tough.
Now, Democratic Congressman from Massachusetts, Seth Moulton, is a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, what happens now?
The concern, of course, is that this is the beginning of the end, that Putin starts not only walking all over Ukraine, but walking all over Europe. And this gets a lot worse on Donald Trump's watch. Why? Because he's somehow beholden to Putin, somehow beholden to the Kremlin, echoing their talking points, a true puppet of Vladimir Putin, rather than standing up for our ally, standing up for our values, and standing up for NATO in its defense of Europe.
In fact, we were on the phone with a well-known Ukrainian journalist earlier, and we caught her at the grocery store, and she said, "You have to excuse me, I'm crying." And that, I think, really just sums up the mood here in Ukraine, which is a mixture of shock, disbelief, and dread as to what may come next.
And now for the reactions by Zelensky and Trump in the hours that followed. Not wanting to throw gasoline on the fire, Zelensky posted a diplomatic response on X that read, "Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you, POTUS, Congress, and the American people. Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that." Meanwhile, Donald Trump, whose impulse is to build raging bonfires and pour rocket fuel on them because he thinks it shows strength, reflected on the debacle in front of his helicopter.
We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelensky, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great. From this standpoint, I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up a strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace.
By emboldened, Trump means didn't kiss my ring and didn't cave into my demands.
I want anybody that's going to make peace. If he's capable of making peace, which he may or may not be, but I want somebody that's going to make peace. Again, he doesn't have the cards. When we sign up, he's got all of the cards. That doesn't mean he can fight. He's got to stop the fighting, stop the death. He's losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers. It's time to stop the death.
And that's Donald Trump positioning himself as the savior by saying things like making peace and stop the death. which is contrary to his stated goal of securing compensation in the form of mineral rights.
He doesn't want to do that? That's fine. You a better do. I want it to end immediately. I want a ceasefire now. He said, oh, I don't want a ceasefire. But all of a sudden, he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. Either we're going to end it or let him fight it out. And if he fights it out, it's not going to be pretty. Because without us, he doesn't win.
And that's just Trump being himself, a bully without empathy.
He's got to say, I want to make peace. He doesn't have to stand there and say about Putin this, Putin that, all negative things. He's got to say, I want to make peace.
And that's Trump's way of saying, he's got to say, you win, sir. You are the king of negotiation and the savior of Ukraine. Usually this is where I insert my commentary, but this time I'm going to give the final word to two women who I think you'll recognize. Two women who are here to say, I told you so.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people, that you are willing to spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do.